Welcome back to the most professional StarCraft 2, with the fastest player in the game, the Zerg in the red, the Italian stallion. It's Reynor, facing off against the much more relatable Terran in the blue, the People's Terran from Team Liquid. We have Cure, a best-of-5 Terran versus Zerg showdown between Reynor's speed and Cure's tenacity, sure to be a dramatic showdown worthy of smashing that like button, and maybe even subscribe. Help me count the algorithm, Jimmy. No cringing. 1,672 likes on this video, on this cast, and I'll cast another one. And I'll probably do it anyways, because I don't know what else I'd do with my life. But thank you for watching. Hopefully you've had a good day so far, and hopefully it's about to get just a little bit better as Reynor starts things off, not too surprisingly, with a bit of a Zerg rush. Pool first, but with no gas behind, at least not early on. So not intending on sneaking by with a bunch of speedlings, but instead throwing things sideways, sacrificing just that little bit of extra economy in order to potentially delay. Now, this is 6 lings, which means using the Overlord to redirect the lings based on where the Reaper is going. As Cure did an SCV scout, so he's going for the 3rd base first. There's a chance he can cancel this. Oh, he built a Marine behind. All right, if he went straight for a reactor, then he could be in a lot of trouble. But just for now, it should be able to be mitigated. But the SCVs are pulled off the line. The Reaper already coming back home to defend. Reynor going to force the issue by chewing at the command center itself. Unlikely to cancel it outright, but killing a few SCVs certainly doesn't hurt. At least if you're Zerg. But 4 SCVs dead. 5, 6, 7, 8. Sorry. Wow, terrible, terrible damage. The Zerg rush, a resounding and surprising success. It was 6 slow legs, but Reynor handled it perfectly. The only downside here is no 3rd base quite yet for Reynor. No 3rd command center for Cure because he just lost like a 1/3 of his economy to 6 Zerglings. That is not, but that was not in the script, right? Cure looking for an opportunity. He's trying to find maybe an Overlord or something out there. Drone dodging the Reaper, but the Reaper, not to be outdone, he's got a lot of work to do, gets in the way. He body block. Oh, doubles back. And sir, this is private property. We need you to vacate the Hey, what? Brenda, stop talking to the Terrans. Reaper doing everything he can. Cure knows he has to make up a lot of lost ground here, as it was almost an embarrassing amount of damage done by those early Zerglings. Really should not have been that much, but wow. A devastating start for Cure, and a whole bunch of Zerglings. Reynor looking to follow it up with a similar theme, but a more dramatic attempt. A bunch of Zerglings with speed sneaking by, and that Overlord in position to spy on in fact, he's moving it up to make sure he has vision of the very edge. He needs to know the moment those Hellions move out. So the Zerglings are in place. Reynor 35 drones, so it's really not a huge economy in the grand scheme of things, but Cure's later 3rd command center means we're in a bit of a different scenario. The Overlord trying to get back to this little pervert platform here so it can spy on everyone and make them uncomfortable. Nope. The barracks? Sorry. Jimmy, just... Overlord ends up getting taken down. The barracks not quite committed to the idea, trying to get back home. But just drops it down. Starts a tech lab, and behind it, we have the Banshee with Cloak on the way. So, despite the shenanigans early, I don't think Reynor's taken a massive advantage here, and in fact, he isn't well, let's see how much he can get done with the Zerglings in the 2nd round. As the SCVs are vulnerable, the engineering bay is on the low ground. Gonna chew up one, building the supply depot, another building the engineering bay. Only 2 SCV kills thus far, but not the inordinate damage he was able to enjoy earlier. So, not nearly the overwhelming success. Though, drags a lot of the Hellions back home, allowing Reynor to get that creep spread really started now. Something less likely to happen when you start with the pool first. Hellions incinerating one of the tumors. Going to try to just run by, but the Zergling's already in position. Goes very deep onto the creep. Tries to block it with an Evo chamber, but it's not enough. 5, 6 drones dead. And Cure's revenge is fiery. Grenade bounces him around. He will lose every single Hellion for 7 drones. I don't think it was worth it. Felt a bit spiteful there. But he does trade a bit for the economy, and will slow Reynor down as well. Creep tumors, gonna get taken out immediately. A single shot of the Banshee, inconvenient timing to deal with. In fact, it almost looked like he didn't see that last one, but turns around, clears it out. And Cure didn't rally his SCVs at the People's Terran. Alright? 5 SCVs just chilling at the third. A team building experience. Typical group project, but Infestation Pit is already on the way from Reynor, clearly angling towards a remarkably fast Hive, especially considering Cure, you already know what he's doing. He's going to have 5 racks on the way, 2 engineering base. Very likely going to hit that armory timing, and we're going to see a whole lot of Marines, Medevacs, and maybe Matanks as well for the M&M composition. Infestation Pit done, and the Hive in 3, 2, 1. There we go. Hive started. 7 minutes. Quite fast. Not overwhelmingly so to the point that any Hive tech is going to be a game-winning advantage, but certainly going to turn the initiative back towards Reynor once it kicks in. Hive. We already talked about the Hive. The Banshees, though, continue cutting around the edges. 1 Infester in production, and that's Scarlet Fester. The pre-Hive, just something. Infestors are still great. Able to hold things down early, and the threat of them in general slows down most pushes. As soon as you see the Infestor as Terran, you've got to rethink your options. And if you don't see it, it's definitely worse. So I think the cost of the Infestor definitely justifies itself at this stage of the game, especially before, like, there's no Hydralisk 10, there's no Roach 1, there's no Spire. Could get the Prima strategy guide and check off the rest of the tech boxes, but it's literally just Zerglings. Not even Banelings. Just Zerglings. Mass Zerglings, Queens, and Infestors will be the composition. As the Hive completes and immediately starts an Ultralisk Cavern. Go big. And he's probably already at home, but right alongside it, Adrenal Glands as well. The Lings and Ultras going to be fully upgraded. Nothing else even invested in. I gotta keep stressing, not even a Baneling nest. Just mass Zergling. Of course, you save a lot of gas by not investing in Banelings. It's just, you know, harder to find those decisive fights if the Terran is prepared. But if there's anyone capable of catching a Terran off guard, or just pulling them apart with sheer speed, it's the Italian Stallion. Banshees take out a Queen. Gonna help with some of the creep tumors. Cure, no slouch. 156 to 162 supply. Banshees taken out of the main, at least one of them. But the Marines clean up one of the hatcheries. At least some of them will escape. 7 drones dead. 75 workers apiece. Not a booming economy for Reynor if he wants to go for that kind of 300 supply style, but down goes yet another Banshee. Spores along the perimeter. They've been removed from the field. Cure securing his 4th base, and that might be something that Reynor wants to take issue with. There's no Vipers on the way, though. No further tech. He's still just leaning on the Ultras. They'll have chitinous plating. I assume he's going to queue up. Ooh, I like the little airlock system here that Cure has. Though, he left these depots open. Literally walling off. He's got some chew toys over here. Cure, quite a SimCity player. Command center, well, 4th or 5th, no, 6th command center is on the way. Starting to build up that Iron Bank, and it seems Reynor is happy to let him. He expands to a 5th and a 6th base himself. 2-2 upgrades, but we're in a full-on macro game. Changelings taken down. The upgrades continue to increment. Baneling Nest finally, begrudgingly added. ultra speed halfway there. Reynor seems to be content to let Kier have 4 bases. There are 3 more factories on the way. Quite a bio-curious build indeed, as the Industrial Revolution seems to be happening back at home. Kier has been favoring the much more mechanically oriented late game, like it's a Brood War composition, adding in siege tanks and even Hellbats in the late game, which, depending on how committed your opponent is to spellcasters, really determines how effective it is. And considering that Reynor has exactly 0 Vipers right now, and he does not have Neural Parasite, I think the addition of a strong contingent of mech units will certainly not spark joy in the Zerg. But there'll be plenty of sparks flying, with Blue Flame Hellions on the way, smart servos for quick transform, Burrow Festers are out there, and a Spire as well, though probably not for Mutas, but instead a Broodlord transition. The Zerglings, this is it, the 5th base. I don't think I've ever so clearly seen an objective enter the screen. There's now an objective in the top left corner, and it says, destroy the 5th base. Reynor, you have 1 minute to make that a meaningful goal. Otherwise, you won't get your bonus gems in order to buy your weekly Zergling wing skin, where they look like rainbow butterfly wings. Actually, that sounds pretty cool. I've sold myself on it. Like and subscribe. And the 6th base on the way. The fact that Reynor's just chilling. He's not hitting the 5th. He has to stop the center base, right? The Infestor's at the back. I mean, Reynor has most of his side of the map. The Queens tag teaming a hatchery, slapping those injects in one after another. The way inject works is you queue it up. All right, you don't share. It doesn't pop off more larvae. It just takes more time. So each queen knows which larva is hers. Like, you can tell by the way it is. Isn't that neat? But at one point in time, you could only have 1 inject and had to restart it immediately. But that time has passed. The Zerglings. There are 117 Zerglings, 2 Ultras, 94 drones from Reynor. I am intensely curious. Maybe he's just going to, like, this is almost no rush. Like, about as close as you'll get. What are you doing? Kier just wanders off into the center of the map. Meanwhile, the rest of the map is taken by Reynor. A fusion core is on the way. How much larva? 51 larva. 1 nuclear missile is in production. Reynor, okay, at this point, I guess you stop them from taking the contested bases, like the 12 o'clock and the 6 o'clock, which Reynor has already taken. He's also going to take both corners, which puts him 3 out of 4 for a bingo 4-corner strategy. All right. 30 banelings in production. The mules are mining. The command center count is growing. More CCs than a poorly formatted corporate email chain. And, well, Kier has 5 factories, 8 barracks, and 2 starports in production. He's also maxed out, of course. That 1 nuclear missile in the bank. But Reynor is playing full defense. He seems to be he's taken every base that is open but the 3 o'clock, and I bet he's thinking about that one as well. Kier, on his side of things, has also sat back, but the time for chilling has passed. Blinding Cloud hits the planetary. Zerglings closing in. A few snipes will not stop the Ultras. Banelings rolling through the Blinding Cloud, but the siege tank spread is so good I can't believe it's not butter. The sheer DPS of the Bio Ball is able to grind through the rest. But Reynor forced the base. Well, he destroyed the planetary. A display command center will become a practical one, taken off the shelf and drops right back down. Siege tank shelling the base to the north side. Reynor has consumed the map. 85 creep tumors and counting. 7 corruptors on the way. Kier filling in the building upgrades. High Sercata tracking and building armor. Venn diagram of freedom covering the base. Liberators scattered throughout. The hatchery, he actually cancels it at the last second. What? You know, this may come down to 200 minerals, but it's almost impossible to imagine at this stage. 8,000, 2,600 in the bank versus 4K, 2K. This hatchery will be contested by the Lings. 3-3 with adrenal glands. More than enough to actually take out these Marines. Eventually get picked up, though, a bit later than they called for it. Reynor comfortably mining from the bottom right corner. 2 Thors on the way. Anticipating... Well, he saw the Corruptors. So I think he's anticipating Broodlords. Thors and Vikings are the 2 most Nordic and effective counters to the Broods. That high impact mode actually effectively outranging the Broodlords because of their kind of awkward range bug, which has been pontificated about many a time. Effectively, the Broodlords will not throw both of their broodlings at max range because they're finicky creatures. And as a balance concern, we kept that bug in, despite knowing how to fix it. Which, you might know by the way I'm saying it, how I feel about it. But I'm not here to editorialize. I'm completely and perfectly unbiased. A lot of people say I'm the most humble and modest and smartest caster. A lot of smart people in the YouTube comments. That's how you know they're smart, right? Like and subscribe to unlock them. Meanwhile, bio up to the top left corner. So we haven't seen any Broodlords because there's no Greater Spire. I'm kind of actually surprised at that. Maybe a second Spire. It's almost inevitable at this point. The Ultras were eliminated from contention a while ago. Cure has taken one of the contested bases to the north. Alright. Reynor's lost 11,000 resource to 7,000 so far. Not a massive disparity, but here we go. The Corruptor's gonna knock out the Medivacs. Yanks in the tank. It's a much more personal relationship. Not for long. Explorates the planetary. The Ghost will knock out some of the Overseers on retreat. Changeling's gun down. 112 Zerglings in production. And he has 16 more larvae. He just doesn't have any more supply. Still, over 9,000. What? 9,000? Over 9,000 minerals in the bank for Reynor. 5,000 gas. And if he can just keep spending Zerglings to deny bases, that's obviously the ideal move. We'll see. Here, he's got a smattering of everything Terran. He has a nuclear missile, 2 Thors, 50 SCVs, 8 Hellbats mixed in there, Blinding Cloud, Corruptors floating over most of these turrets. Gonna force the base to lift yet again. And Reynor, it seems he's going for the contested bases. He may continue this through. But it's quite a stylistic change for Reynor to sit back this long. He may have determined, or at least wants to test, whether this is the ideal way to do things. A burrowed infestor is blocking the base at the 3 o'clock. Oh, Reynor? Still mining from most of his side of the map. Even with 82 drones, he has so many bases he can't mine from them all efficiently. Infestor underneath. Still no neural parasite, which is definitely an oversight. Burrowed infestor gets scanned. Just kind of slips away. Wait, is there an infestor on us? Ah, there it is. Lings and Banes again. So apparently the objective was not the 5th or the 6th, but the 7th base. As the Banelings are rolling through and oh, the infest! You waited 10 minutes for that. Oh my. I haven't been this disappointed in a payoff since Diablo Immortal. You guys have phones. You know you can like and subscribe on your phone. The infestor going to spot the tank CGM. That's... You guys hear something? Did you not eat breakfast, Gertrude? You know me. I'm doing intermittent fasting. I call it starving. What? Scans for it? I think just... Huh. Actually kind of an interesting scan. Scanning. So when you have 10 orbital commands, You have more scans than a Costco checkout aisle. Scanning for infestors has become the default. You see it there, Cure, just kind of whipping it around like a radar dish. I guess effectively it is. Making sure no infestors are underneath. Blinding Cloud. Lings come in for another round. 4 Thors! And so many years ago, the Terran said, what if we had 3 Goliaths in a trench coat and slapped them together? And then, like, it was way bigger, because bigger is better. And look at those guns. Alright? And if you don't tell me not to have a little fun, I'm not... Anyways, the Thors. 100 more Zerglings. This mercenary group of Hellbats and tanks will be driven back, but Cure has established the northern side, and he's now fighting for another one of the contested bases. Reynor has lost 10,000 more resources, but the Blue Flame Hellbats certainly helping. The planetary will backstop this, but missile turret, another base denied. So many more Zerglings. Reynor has lost 750 Zerglings so far, and counting. He can afford many more than that. Plus, nuclear launch detected. Fires it off into the bottom right corner. Reynor has to see it. Yeah, he moves away. Actually, a decent amount of time to continue mining. Will mildly inconvenience, obliterates the larva. Bruises the hatchery, but doesn't find anything else for now. +3 flyer attack now on the way. Cure exclusively making mech units. Going to have completed upgrades in a minute or two. The game slows down. The lines are drawn. Another few dozen Langs. And a huge Ultras mixed into the composition, but the Thors not bad against them if they're actually able to attack. But right now, between all the Banelings and Langs, they're quite a backstop, though, for the Ghost behind them. The Ghost able to snipe through, while the Thors hold the line. More Ultralists on the way. Cure loses a lot of supply. But, well, Reynor loses more in the form of resources, but not by a huge amount. He still has mined several more bases. And coming in for another round, 2 Fungals, holds down the Ghosts, eliminates the last Thor. And the Zerglings and Ultras still overrunning the field. Planetary will be ripped apart. The Ghosts line up their shots, able to get enough done to kill the Ultralisk. Corruptors will wipe out the Medivacs, and Reynor is just chewing Cure apart. More Infestors spotted and sniped. The tanks are moving forward. Reynor with another round before the tanks are all sieged. Here we go again. Ultras closing in. Hellbats. +3 now done. Well, Cure's at maximum upgrade. More Ultras trundling in. The siege tanks doing what they can. The Ghost lining up more shots. And the planetary, or the orbital command dies, but so do a whole lot of Ultras and Lings. The fight has escalated. 6 Ultras dead. Cure definitely getting the better end of things cost-wise, but not by such a decisive margin. Reynor's gonna pull back and rethink the idea. 6 more Ultras in production. The siege tanks holding the line. The Ghosts almost entirely out of energy, especially after sniping off yet another Ultralisk. 10 of them dead. 8 more in production. And they don't stop coming, and they don't stop coming. Cure hammering the base, softened up by the nuke, will finally be taken out. And Cure has been mining to the north side as well. The question is, has Reynor mined from enough of the contested bases to justify the overwhelming expenditure of units? And right now, the answer is not knowable. The Ultras coming in again. 1 or 2 Overseers over the top. I don't even know if the Ghosts have Cloak. I believe they do. Unfortunately, that fight into the overlapping double siege, the Venn diagram of freedom with the Liberators, that, I think, was a turning point. as Reynor, a decisive loss in that fight, forced to replenish and is completely rethinking his composition, as now he's making his Spire great again. Greater Spire for Broodlords. Unfortunately, it's already cost him so much to try to break these bases. He's not even mining the gas from the top left corner, meaning that he still has a lot of opportunities there. Corruptors will be rebuilt. Switches angles to where Cure not nearly is set up, though he has enough Liberators overhead to instantly discourage any further transgressions. That Liberator taking out every single one of the copious larvae at the base. And more liberation is at hand. No Vipers survived. Reynor, Corruptors, another round, and Cure going to clear out both corners, bringing him that much closer to the bingo victory. Greater Spire a few seconds out. Ultra's gonna chop through the Hellbats. Cure just scanning constantly. 11 orbital commands. One of them up in the air right now, but... A dozen Broodlords. Are they in the scan? I think so. There's no reason to stop scanning the army. It only takes 5 orbital commands to have a scan ready for every single time one runs out. There's no reason, yes, to stop doing so. Even scanning the other side. But here we are. Neural Parasite is on the way, though maybe a little on the late side of things. There's 11 ghosts. How many infestors? 8 infestors. He needs to stop the snipes. Lines up a couple shots. The infestors are still well in Liberator range, though they don't have advanced ballistics. Is there a fusion core? Yes. Not getting advanced ballistics seems like quite an oversight, and will affect these fights. Ultra's on the other side of the map, just chewing through, ignoring the siege tank. Eventually get to it. The Broodlords contesting the siege line with the Liberators, the Ghosts, and the siege tanks. Oh my, now turrets coming up as well to make things more complicated. Re-adding in the Vipers to the composition. Neural Parasites so very much on the way. Spore Crawlers, the standoff continues. The Ghost looking for a shot. Infestor able to land a fungal before all the snipes can connect. And half the Ghosts are obliterated, mostly by siege tanks. Advanced ballistics in production. Cure realizing he forgot that critical upgrade. Many of the Ultras survived over the right side, but Reynor has less gas in the bank at this stage. Another nuclear missile in production. Cure slow and steady. Definitely benefits his race, and just continually using those scans from the near infinite orbital commands. Ultra's chewing through. The defense is a lot thinner down the right side. Ultras, the Ghosts will cloak, but not really enough energy for snipe. Trying to move through the infestors right on the edge of the range. How many Corruptors left? 0. That's not very many. With no Corruptors to wipe out the Liberators, he's reliant on Spellcasters and Spore Crawlers. And while Spells and Spores sounds like a copyright-free D&D variant, it doesn't necessarily have... Nuclear launch detected. The Viper trying to move forward, but the nuke may take... No, he moves everything back at the last moment. Singes a couple of the Spores. 13 more Corruptors on the way. 1 Ultra survived this engagement for now. The Zerglings, he's covering for him. The Ultra trying to get out of there. The Zerglings will deal with it. But Reynor actually running out of gas. He wasn't mining from all of it. He still has several gas geysers mining comfortably. So he actually wasn't mining from the outlying bases because he was so focused on Zerglings. He's lost 1,300 Zerglings. And we're not done yet. Yanks in another Liberator. Vipers regaining energy. A lot of options to do so. Several of the Spores just unburrowed. Really trying to deny Cure from taking this base in the bottom right. The Mules, another round mining. The game has slowed down a bit, as Reynor no longer has that massive bank to invest in absolutely everything he ever wanted, and then some. The Broodlords moving in on the left side. The Thors are here. Half a dozen. The orbital command not even lifted. Not that it would matter much. The Thors. The Zerglings may be enough, but those are fully armored Thors. Nuclear launch detected. Maybe one more taken down alongside the siege tank. Not quite. Repairs it. At this point, definitely valuable. The nuke forces the pullback. And the nuke's just keeping things at bay. 6 more Broodlords on the way. But if Reynor doesn't change soon, I don't know if he'll win this day. As so far, the Broodlord count makes me say, hey! That's a lot of Broodlords you got there. You got a permit for them Broodlords, mate? And while we completely go off script, I'll say like and subscribe. Damn it. Edit it to sound good. 4 more Thors, but the orbital command under the deluge of broodlings will be obliterated. There are 21 broodlords overhead. An entire feudal society of lords and queens will now contest the metal and magic of the ghosts and Thors. Infestors catching things at the edge. The Thors in a heads-up fight. A great option, but Reynor not giving him a lot of opportunity. 13 Thors. The lines are still drawn. Reynor's done a good job of denying that bottom right base. So Cure's mining. He yanked it. I keep forgetting you could even... Yanks in a Thor. 1 Viper remains. Four more broods. 25 broods. The changelings, well, there were changelings. Yanks in the tank. The tank almost takes out the infestors. May have gotten one. The battle continue. Oh yeah, Cure destroying a siege tank and an infestor. Typical. 25 broodlords. As Reynor has rebuilt the bank, as soon as he pulled back from the mass Ling Ultra style. Oh, but the Thors, the 2nd Thor army, the 2nd armored division comes out of nowhere, and the entire might of the Terran mech army will join up and try to batter down the Zerg. Reynor suddenly on the retreat as the Thors are pounding through the defenses. A box art level strategy from both sides. And that is so many Thors. The Liberators to zone out the infestors. Make it that much more difficult to actually engage. The Broodlords backed into a corner. The Spore Crawler's not helping out very much, but he turns a few of the Thors. The Liberator overhead is very problematic here, but the Thors working against their own. Incredibly helpful. Most of the Ghosts take it out before they can do anything, but the Thor armor is holding, pounding through the Broods. Infestors out of energy. And the Thors remain. But Ultras, Infestors, and Lings are in production. If this fight continues long enough, he can reinforce. More Infestors getting taken out. Hellbats trundling up, helping with the Broodlings. More Zerglings. Infestors, some of them escape, but most of them brutalized by the overwhelming amount of Terran damage. 11 more Ultras in this endgame scenario, but the Thors continue forward. The inevitable march of the largest Terran unit, besides your mother, is able to move forward, and 13 more Ultralists. We know it all. Well, how many Thors remain? 8 of them, 3 more in production. Reynor expends the entirety of his bank on the Ultras. He does not want to let this army get back home to be repaired, to be replenished, to be reconsolidated. He needs to engage now. The Thors, the Hellbats underneath, helping to thin out the Zerglings. The Ghosts uncontested as there's no detection. The Liberators still above, but the Ultralists cleave the army in twain. Thor in high impact mode, just fighting the Brood Lords, but Ultras on top of the Thors. What an absolute battle between these two. The Ultras on top of the planetary fortress may rip it to shreds, I say. And the Ultras come back into cover after every... Wait. One Brood Lord remains. 1,500 Zerglings. 27 Brood Lords. 26 Thors have been taken down. This is a Pacific Rim level battle between the biggest Zerg and the biggest Terran. And at the end, everyone is completely and utterly broke. Reynor 126 supply, Cure at 116, but he has barely more workers than he started with. 13 of them left. And now even less. A few Hellions slip by. The Ultras try to do their best Zergling cosplay. Thor's units cost money to repair, but it's only 1/4 the cost of building the unit. So, not too much to bring the Thors back up to full, but adding a bunch of Hellbats in. Infestors are the choice for Reynor. He's long distance mining from the bottom right corner. He's pretty much out of gas otherwise. What, 1,500? We're definitely in the bean counter phase now. Cure still has 9 orbital commands, so plenty for scans, while still mule dropping pretty much every mineral patch he has left. I fear Reynor, who's lost 20,000 more resources, almost all of the minerals. Cure's actually lost more gas. But Reynor has mined nearly 100,000 minerals. And still not enough. There's a real chance that Cure runs out of gas. Though Hellbats are still quite helpful. Trying to chew through the Hellbat split. Here, the Zerglings coming in. Gonna run back. Still plenty of ghosts. 11 ghosts remain. 11 Ultras. There's a changeling in the midst of the You want a piece of meat, boys? What? Why is there a Marine? There's no Marines in our... There are no Marines. Back up to 4 Broodlords. Something to force the... So, you need to do what you can to mess up the Thor AI. Because Thors are actually quite a good counter to Ultras if they're able to focus fire. But they will attempt to kill the Broodlords before they fight against the ground. They're actually coded to engage air threats before ground. Originally as a defense against mutas, but it's something you can kind of use against them if your ground army is the stronger component. Oh, the bait and switch. The Ultra drawn into the fire and obliterated by the snipes. Reynor is bleeding out, being cauterized and bleeding out again. He's mining again from the top left corner. There's still about 2,500 gas up here. You don't want to have to be rebuilding drones at the 39-minute mark. Here, though, 151 army supply of fully operational, upgraded Terran. Ghosts, Hellbats, siege tanks, and Thors with a couple Liberators, just to make things more complicated. The scan forward, and I don't know if Reynor has what it takes to contest this. Turns the siege tank against the Terrans. That's something. The Broodlords, the Ghosts line up some shots. The Infestors are already out of energy. May have gotten EMP'd. And the Ultras will trundle forward the last march. But there is just too much firepower. In every sense of the word, GGWP Cure takes the game after just 40 minutes. 1,571 things A grand total of 107,000 resources. But Cure, slow and steady. And he's able to win it. And he starts off. Starts off 1-0. Definitely, it feels like Reynor intentionally trying a different style. He's well known for being the aggressive player who will hit you whenever he has the opportunity. He kind of started off that way, but then he just sat there. It's not like he was getting... The thing is, Kier also sat there. He was also sitting back. So, he wasn't alone in that. But he just let Kier get a 5th and a 6th base and relied on his massive bank to eventually break him. Unfortunately, the first thing that broke was the bank. Kier was just a little bit too cost-effective. And Reynor ran out of resources just as quickly against an army that, in an even money or low money game, almost impossible to beat. Kier already had the orbital commands. He already had the ghosts. He already knew what Reynor's options were. But still, many of those fights tilting a little bit more towards the Italian, italicizing if you would, could have easily seen a different result. I think of all the games to complain about the efficiency of the Terran army, which are many, that was not one of them. That won't stop people, but definitely more of a choice of Reynor to do that. He stayed on the Ultra list too, and I love it. Who doesn't love Ultras? In fact, we've made a map after them, and we're playing it right now. Ultra love! But there is such a thing as too many. Some might argue one is too many. The Broodlords, 25 broods, still not enough. 16 Thors to match them. Cure, very good, like, he's just not a flashy player. You even saw that during some of the early fights, like, losing so many Marines in fights that Clem definitely would have already picked up and gotten out of. But it's about the end result. He will grind you down and earn game number 1. Alright, game 2, Reynor. Not with a spawning bull, no sort of cheeky Zergling rush. Slowing things down just a bit. Gonna have that 3rd hatchery. Wow, so quick. 2 minutes. No gas. Spanishiwa. Ice Fisher build. And, if you recognize that reference. How are the reading glasses and the back pain? Tell me about your knees. He lost a drone. Hey, come back. Brenda, did he kill a drone? Yes! Well, whose fault is that? I should not speak. If I speak, I will be in big trouble. And I don't want to be in big trouble. I feel like you're saying something by not saying anything. I'm just here so I don't get fined. Sorry. I blacked out for, Starport on the way. Factory going to be the one doing the add-ons. Is that what's happening here? Yeah, interesting. So a bit of a different style from Kiera, the Reaper. Ooh, driven away. Multiple overlords heading out, making sure to cover all his bases in the most literal sense. Roach Warren, quite early on. Oh, that's a spicy Roach Warren right there. All right, he has some aggressive intentions. Overlord, wait, what? Do you know where you are? Yes, I know it's on our side. Sorry. Two Marines just unceremoniously walk across the map and murder an overlord with creep in sight. Disgusting. The hubris. Get off my creep. The Roaches murder the Reaper with extreme prejudice, but I think showing the Roaches at this time is probably the right call, is making sure that Kira's off balance. Probably the highest priority. Layers on the way. Just the 4 Sloaches to start, enough in case Kira was going for reactor Hellions. You'd have enough to shut it down, but for now, the Overlord signed up for this, didn't you? Layers halfway there. Plus 1 Carapace is on the way. Hedging his bets. Carapace affects everything. I feel like it should affect buildings as well, or at least like spine crawlers. You know, I want to see mass spine crawler late game. Spine crawlers are so sad. In general, like, they just don't have the utility. But maybe a spine crawler speed upgrade. Yeah, get your tentacles all up in their business. But check out more of my Dronely fans by checking out Patreon. Unrelated. Infestation Pit is on the way. Again, Reynor working towards that hive quite quickly. No roach speed, despite the lair. Banshees. Gonna be caught in between. Hey, I'm Brenda from the Hatchery Owners Association, and you should know this is restricted lair space. I think they're gone. I am legally obligated to. Okay, Brenda. I'm just saying. Sorry. Haven't. Hive Tech is on the way. Baneling Nest as well as Reynor building up once again to that late game composition. There's that Scarlet Fester. Banshees unleash. Another Overlord will survive for now. Sounds the alarm. The Queens again. Gonna try to drive it back. Zergling speed, road speed on the way. Filling in the composition again. Kira's gonna fight. This is not going well. Like that. I don't think it'll show up there in a moment, but Explorers on the perimeter. But fighting with no upgrades on either side is not. Looks like our battle report is a bit. No! Can't. Oh, it was just Karen. It's fine. The hatchery, the HOA meetings will be much quieter. Sorry. Hive, he's already got a drone ready. Does he ultra love this map? He ultra does. And that's an Ultralisk Cavern. As Reynor, really thematically appropriate here. And seeming to think that the reason last game went so poorly is he didn't build enough Ultralisks. And quantity has a quality of its own, which Cure very much understands as well. I don't know why we're doing Wingardium Ultralosa. Some say if I tied my hands behind my back, I would not be able to speak. But is what I have to say about that. Pongo catches everything on the field, including the siege tanks, completely blindsided up the ramp, and now won't be seeing anything at all. Most of the army headed to the unit's loss tab. Manages to turn it around somewhat with a siege tank at the back, but Reynor not gonna let up, continues forward. Combat shield finally done for the few surviving Marines, but Reynor takes a 20 supply lead at the most important time of the game. Right as adrenal glands, as chitinous plating and Ultralisks are in production, that is exactly what Reynor needed when he needed it. A resounding victory that will give Reynor a huge advantage, and I certainly hope he doesn't make the same mistake of sitting back and squandering it, if you would. I like that word. It's one of my favorites. Well, it's not one of my favorites, but I think it's very appropriate for Shh! Stop criticizing me, all right? Only nice things here on the internet. You know the rules, and so do I. It's a mess today. Sorry. 2-2 on the way for Cure, but this is a fully operational late game Reynor. Maxed out and good to go. Finally, the Banshee's taken down. At least one of them by the queens. The Ultralists are on the field. Ghost Academy is not even completed for Cure. Come on, Reynor. I'm sorry, I get excited for Lings and Ultras. I'm glad to see so many of them, though it didn't go well enough last game. But here's another fungal deja vu. We've just been at this place before, an Ultra's cleaving through, trying to double kill some of the Liberators, gets them, softens up an Ultra with them. One Liberator survives, but much of the Terran is cloven in twain. And Banshee helping out against the Ravager. Some of the Ultras will be thinned out as well. But overall, a significant victory for Reynor on the field. Though he's got 2 Ultras with a quarter Ultra of HP between them. A few dozen Zerglings cleared out the third base, and this is where the real damage is done. Cure doesn't lose too many SCVs, but he lost so many supply depots. He's hard supply blocked at 140 over 132. He literally cannot rebuild his army, while Reynor has already done so. 3 more Ultras completing. He's at 193, and it's bearing down on Cure's bases. Cure just now realizing how desperate his supply chain issues are and may not have the time to rectify them. Ravagers come in splits from his own corrosive biles. The SCV is doing a great job of keeping that planetary intact. And unfortunately, everything in between it will be surrounded and slaughtered. And, well, the planetary is not dying. That is quite a fortress indeed. The fortress. Cure will break before the fortress does. And Reynor strikes back in Game 2 with a decisive victory and decisive engagements with the Ultras, the Lings, and the Infestors on the field, showing it can be done. Not getting bogged down in that ultra late game scenario, no puns intended this time, though they usually are. Give me credit. Finally. All tied up. 1-1. We go to game number 3. Agonon. Cure getting caught off guard multiple times, unable to really coalesce that late game death ball composition. Reynor clearly showing he can adapt and overcome. So far, quite an evenly matched series. And honestly, right now, I believe these players are... I think Jimmy, if he didn't mess up the stats, like he has before and has been punished for it. But these players are ranked, I want to say 6 and 7, maybe 5 and 6 right now, right next to each other in the rankings. And by the way, for those wondering about those stats, they're drawn from aligulac.com. You'll probably just search StarCraft 2 rankings. And while it's not a perfect system, it is the ranking site everyone uses for everything. And it's based on pretty much all registered pro matches, which are matches from tournaments that have a prize pool. So that is the relevant part of things. It's also an average of the matchups as well. Like some players have it incredibly good. For, I guess, an example of a player who's ranked kind of low, despite being very successful in certain matchups, is Gumiho. Shout out to my Gumi bros. Gumiho is incredible in Terran versus Zerg. He's very good in TVT and kind of atrocious in TVP. So, you know, like most Terrans on the ladder. But that TVP drags him down a lot, and he's only ranked like 12th or 13th, despite regularly beating many players at a higher rank. But I digress. As Cure has had enough, he's going for the 3 Rax Reaper. The key point is the 3rd Rax in the main. The 2 Rax Reaper is a high pressure, kind of tempo timing build, but the 3 Rax is almost all in. So the 3-per build to start. And if Reynor does the same thing as he did last game, which is quick 3rd with the late gas, he could be in for a small to medium to game-ending amount of trouble. So it got it all covered there. It is a later Zergling speed, but not late.
It is... No, actually, that's normal Zergling speed time. So, not investing in the third. The Overlord spotted the 2 racks at the net. So, the Queen will pop out. Our grenade. Second Queen comes down. Gonna get bounced around. Still no command. Like, Reynor's sitting there. He sees there's no command center. That is by far the most important thing. You don't need to see the third racks. You just need to see whether or not they have a command center. And the lack thereof, well, the Queen splits the difference. Unfortunately, those Reapers heal much faster than the Zerg units do. More Reapers on the way. And by this point, it's pretty clear the magnitude of the situation. 10 more Zerglings in production. But Zergling speed still 20 seconds out. This is the most dangerous 20 seconds of the foreseeable future for Reynor. He needs to keep the Queens alive. He needs to maintain the Zergling count. And right now, he has an equal number of workers, which is not ideal either. The final count will be 8 Reapers, while he adds on to his racks and everything else. Queens tapping each other on the back with some transfuses. Reynor with 27 Zerglings. That's more than enough to kill this. Grenades, though, covering the retreat. And Cure not going to play with fire. He's just going to head back home. The Zergling's going to try to intercept. They're going on both sides. Reynor... Well, both players know what's happening right now. The question is, can Cure get back somewhere he can protect his Reapers in time? He opens the door. The Zerglings will be stuck on the other side of it. And he gets away with it. The Reapers should be enough to hold the door easily. There's no Baneling bus, nothing like that behind this. +1 infantry. Obviously, sorry, abrupt today. I don't know what's going on with me. And again, sometimes I listen back and people will timestamp certain statements. Be like, this moment was great or questionable or interesting. And then I listen back, I'm like, wow, that's exciting. I don't remember saying that at all. I don't know if that's a good or a bad thing, but it is. So I just start these sentences, and most of the time, by the time we get to the end, either it sounds decisive or it is. Either way, that's what's important. Just keeping you concentrated on the action, keeping you entertained. Let's be honest here. The average person watching this hasn't played for possibly half of Reynor's lifetime. Well, 22 years, by the way. So it's more about looking and sounding good than about being good. And while we're puzzling that one out, I have plenty of time to like, subscribe, and acknowledge the fact that the Reaper Marine composition looks straight like something out of Wings of Liberty. Remember the Reaper grenade for the buildings? Honestly, for players with the level of micro and control of top pros nowadays, the Reaper grenade for units is actually much stronger. And that's the one that had to be nerfed multiple times when Beyond forced the issue. But you can still find some of that stuff in the campaign, of course. Zerglings taken out, still threatening, forcing Zerglings. Reynor only has 51 drones against 42 SCVs. He has no big tech advantage of any kind. Now Cure has Stim and +1. This is a dangerous army with those medevacs, and the Reapers are still a threat with the grenades as well. Not so much for damage, but just for making it difficult for the Zerglings to close the distance. Throws out some of them. He's just going to hold it together here. I have no idea how this fight goes. Reynor seems to know a little better. Takes the medevac out of the... Oh, no! Well, at first, you don't succeed. You're going to have to try again. Assuming you survive, in this case, Cure loses a medevac full of Marines because he overstayed his welcome by a huge margin. He dug too deep and too greedily. And the Queens, with a great prejudice, knocked the medevac out of the sky. Cure, doing his best Clem cosplay. But unlike, well, since he is, and this is true, not Clem, it ends in disaster. That's how it feels when we watch anyone but Clem, and sometimes also Clem, try to do these pinpoint micro builds, because you're 1 to 2 seconds away from losing your entire army at all times. But if you take full advantage of those 1 to 2 seconds, Terran looks absolutely busted. But speaking of busting in 1 to 2 seconds, Baneling Nest is completed, and Baneling Speed is on the way. A critical component of dealing with this army. Reynor up 30 supply, 75 Zerglings on the field. But the siege tanks in quite an effective position. Oh, he left a few Marines back at home. He's covering each side of it. Burrow is completed. Cure finding a very effective siege tank positioning, but now Zerglings coming in from either side. One tank overrun. The Queen's trying to have a repeat performance, but Cure eventually forced to pick up and get out. Hydra is done, is on the way. The Queen... Come on, Brenda, let's get you back to creep. Well, why isn't there creep here, Susan? Whose job was this? Let's not point grasping limbs at one another. The only thing you're grasping at is straws, Susan. Sorry. Cure with a double drop. No, wait. 2 Liberators headed off to the corner. 5 more racks on the way. A low economy game of constant aggression. Another round of Lings and Bands. Fully completed, but those Liberators definitely going to be an air superiority-based thorn in Reynor's side. There were no spores built because he was dealing with Marines and Medivacs the whole time. And finally, the Liberators can kind of exploit that lack of air defense as the Queens have to come all the way back to the main base. But Reynor still has a 30-40 supply lead. He's adding Hydras into the composition. There's Banelings in the trees and underneath them. Baneling mines added back, but the Venn diagram of freedom is just all the transfuses holding it together. Several of the drones going to be taken out. Cure working on 2-2 against Reynor, who's only going to have +2 Carapace. Banelings roll through some of the Marines, able to pick up before too much damage is dealt. Awkward. The Hydra's another medevac with Marines inside. Barely gets away. Uses that high ground. Reynor, 69 drones. A very nice baseline economy for mid-game. But teching up to Hive, you're going to need a bit more. Cure at 55 SCVs, and he's not building any additional. He's got, what, 8 racks? The Octo racks, indeed. A dozen Marines and a siege tank in production. 2-2 upgrades. He's going all in. All right, that's it. He's going all in right now. He needs these Marines and tanks to be the solution to destroying the Zerg. His army supply is about equal. His upgrades are superior. That is quite a Terran army. But he's about to go. Oh, he scans and he spots the main mines. I feel like Raider telegraphed it. Just scanning forward. And Cure. This is his bread and buttered biscuit here. The slow burn siege tank push. Just constantly fighting the war of attrition. Big counterattack. Wow, the secondary wall off, funneling the Zerglings perfectly. Reynor forced to wrap things around and maybe use them as a flank. And he will do so. Coming in from the north and the south, from our tilted perspective here. And that set of rocks. Oh no! The rocks go down to incidental damage and actually stop the flank from coming together. The map working against Reynor here. Cure taking full advantage of it. Reynor caught between a rock and a hard place. And now getting even harder with this many Marines closing in. There are 75 Marines on the field, outnumbering the Zerglings and the Banelings. Another hatchery goes down, and the supply lead has been flipped. I don't know if that set of... I don't think they killed any units, but just denying that angle and letting the siege tanks get another couple volleys? Wow. Cure putting the eye in Terran and using the terrain here. And is there a Hive? No. He never started. He needed to deal with this push. And now he's been dealt a very tough hand. Reynor suddenly at a severe disadvantage. His army is worse. His tech is mediocre. His economy is not really something... In fact, he's only on 3 bases. That overlapping Venn diagram of freedom with the Liberators. The Siege Tanks. The Banelings still getting incredible hits. But not good enough. Cure tearing through everything else. The Infestor throws out a fungal. Not going to be enough to stop this push. The Hydralisk count is thinning out. The Zerglings are almost entirely gone. The fungal mildly inconveniences the Marines. And Cure takes another one and goes on the match point. I want to see one more time. I gotta see. I've never seen a set of rocks affect a fight quite that dramatically before. Like, would this have changed the fight? In the rock tower, it was entirely the Banes dying in the midst of everything. So, what do we got here with our weird perspective? Okay. It would not have been the game changer. There's a few more Banes, but there's only like 3 or 4 left. He definitely would be retreating from here. So, I don't think it was a game winner. But it certainly didn't help. He probably picks off the tank and backs off. That's still too many Marines to fight. And there weren't enough Banelings rolling through. But the fact it was dropping at all certainly helped Cure maintain the momentum. Picking off that tank and resetting the fight may have made the difference. But you know what? Coulda, shoulda, woulda. The rock wall drops, and so does Reynor. Still hilarious that happened mid-fight, though. Like, rare to see the terrain have such an active role. But here we are. Definitely adding to a rock in a hard place. Huh. Here takes another one. As we go into Persephone. Quite a match between these two. Cure able to maintain the momentum. Doing a great job of pulling back from the fight. Again, another example of it doesn't matter how many Marines he loses if he can replace them. Losing a medevac full of Marines early. But he had already forced the Zerglings out of Reynor. The Zerg economy is based on, well, it could go 2 ways. You either make drones or Zerglings. And every set of Zerglings is 1 drone less. I know, you're worth it. But that entire game was Reynor kind of holding, but never really having the economy to progress forward dramatically so. An exhausting series so far. We're not done yet. Cure proving he can either wait out the late game or find those very strong Terran timings. Not going to be the 2 rags again, but instead building the rags on the high ground. We'll see how Reynor ends up with the World Cup. So I think part of these almost aggressively standard builds here. The World Cup happening in just a couple weeks. We're watching this like a week or 2. Though all the highlights you'll see here as well. They've always released the replay packs at least. So if there's a game or a match you see that you want my more unique and somewhat disjointed perspective of, then it'd be awesome you let me know. So, I saw a question the other day. I did answer, I think, one of the few responses. So the reason I don't respond to all your incredible comments is that I would feel obligated to respond to even more of them if I did it regularly, which is a nice way to say I'm lazy. But I do really appreciate it. Overwhelmingly positive or else. But I intentionally don't watch most matches beforehand. Like, I'll get an idea based on the file size of the replay, how long the game is. I try not to know how many games are in a series, though sometimes that's impossible. It depends. We let Jimmy take care of it, but another drone? Embarrassing. But pretty much anything but the finals of tournaments, which I'm a fan of the game, so I usually end up watching the finals live. But I don't know who wins, at least beforehand. I just know if they're good games for the fans. Sometimes it's inevitable. All right, sometimes you get that info, but what that means is I probably won't be watching much of the World Cup live intentionally. So that way I'll be looking at it for the first time. Get that feeling of excitement the first time. Well, pretty much up until the finals, though I may end up watching like the top 8. I mean, come on. Like, just bring some more analysis. Starport. Tech Lab. Looking like Cloak Banshee. Well, once he gets the Vespine gas for it. Bounces around the queens. And Cloak is on the way. Just sitting right. Hey! Hey! I don't. Very rude. But quite effective. Sitting right at the edge of the creep, waiting for the opportunity to pick off one of those Tumas. And then head back to the healing shrine. You're aware of it. Allows you to be a little bit more aggressive with that early harass. Though, the one on this map does have an air blocker. So, only ground units get to partake. Overlord sacrifices itself for the scouting info. Going to see exactly what he expected, but still. And the Hellions have committed. You can't go in. That's private prop. Ah. And now some of the drones going to get charbroiled. Goes all the way up into the main. The double Evo chamber block. Heading into the corner. Ring around the mineral line, but the drones not quite able to escape. Lines up another volley. And down goes 6 more. 7. Though things getting a bit more complicated as the Zerglings and Queens close in. 10 drones dead. All before Reynor was able to get his 4th base. Yeah, it was a lot of Hellions taken down, but I do think it was worth it. The amount of mining time, he just lets the Evo chamber complete in order to get +1 Carapace, but Reynor actually behind on workers compared to Cure. Cure just keeps his Banshees back at home. I think you just go for the mules here, yeah. They just drop. Not that Reynor can know that. The Banshee's ripping into the Zerglings. And Reynor set back dramatically by just that Hellion run by, trying to cut some corners, and finding himself losing an edge. Really, the one advantage now is unmitigated creep spread. Maybe just the Banshees. But otherwise, almost nothing to stop the creep. Baneling Nest is on the way. Lair's halfway there. Banshees mildly to moderately bothering everything in the main base. The Queens, well, there's no lair, so transfusing the extractor. Spore Crawler will move up and provide some more detection, as against any competent Terran, you're rarely going to get actual hits. He goes to the other side of the... Wow. Remember when we could fly, Brenda? Susan? Remember... We said we wouldn't talk about the war. I'm not talking about the war. You know what happened. You know about the accident with the engineering bay. You know that we're doing some early lazy exposition to explain some past things because we didn't want to do a flashback sequence as we don't have the production budget. You know all these things, Susan. Yes, but I thought it required explaining. You know. Sorry. I am whacked out again. Like and subscribe so I can get health insurance. Marines. The tanks in position as well. What a nasty spot to dislodge. No banelings with the army. The siege tank's softening things up. 1-1 is done, and the Zerglings are thinning out a lot quicker than the Marines are. Takes down one tank, but the Queen's left on their own, gun down in turn. And suddenly, Reynor's down 20 supply, with this match sliding away from him very quickly. The Queen's coming up to defend. Combat shield isn't done, which is possibly the only thing stopping Cure from just tearing through everything right now. Going to be completed by the time the reinforcements come around. Thankfully for Reynor, he has an alternative fourth, but that's a very difficult position to hold, especially considering siege tanks outrange Zerglings. He can just set up on the low ground and maybe a drop to the high. Has he not even noticed that base exists? Gonna come around the corner here, intercept another base, rallying across 40 supply difference, knocks out the base, and now we'll set up on the low ground. Just now realizing Reynor was ambitious enough to go for it. And this is going from bad to worse for the Italian Stallion at a tough set of games. Macro hatch in position, 30 supply difference. Cure with a decisive upgrade advantage. 2-2 is going to be on the way. Reynor, just +2 carapace. Does have +1 melee completed. Cure adding some more well, the surviving Hellions he built, morphing into Hellbats. He knocks Reynor back to 3 bases. Though taking his sweet time getting a 4th base himself. Who's flanking who? The Zergling's on the run. Siege tank will get healed in the shrine where it sieges up, which is just a bit disgusting. +2-2 on the way. Well, now completed for Cure. Reynor at 170 supply, Cure nearly maxed out. Infestors in production, Hive. So Reynor, if he can hold on. It's a long, still quite a gap until that Hive tech can kick in. But at least he's completed it. +2 melee attack in production. Really wants to hold this base. Big Zergling counter. Banelings roll in and find some success. But there's just too much bio back at home to defend. No Hive tech yet. Reynor's struggling. He doesn't have the larva to support this Zergling production. +3 carapace is the first investment. A drop just standing by. I guess hovering by. Adrenal glands. Spore crawler, not enough to deter the drop onto the high ground. Elevator push. Banshee uncontested as well. Finally gets taken out of the sky. Reynor as close as he's going to get to maxed out, I think. As the main base under fire. Here comes Reynor from both sides. The Fungals jammed into the corner. Banelings closing the distance. The low ground will be cleaned up. The high ground also thinning out. But wait. There's more. In the top right corner, not even medevacs. The Banelings are not enough. One of the medevacs joins up. And Reynor may win the battle, but not the war. 50 supply gap now. Cure. Just sending multitudes of Marines and Marauders marching across the map, and the momentum will be maintained. There's nothing coming to save Reynor. More Zerglings. Adrenal glands will help. But Cure's closing in on 3-3. He's got multiple more command centers ready to move forward. The efficiency is not there. Reynor's lost double the resources. And I think he may lose triple the games by the time this series is done. Adrenal glands is done. Before 3-3 completes for Cure, possibly the best opportunity to take advantage of his upgrades. And it's already gone. Queen's trying, but I don't think it's enough. Closing in. The Marines and Marauders will be maintained. The Queen's not enough changelings. Queen's running low on energy. Trying to target down the medevacs. 70 supply. More reinforcements coming across the map. Widowmine's added into the fray. He has Drilling Claws and Cure. Takes the series. Grinds Reynor down. 3-1. An epic game one, but Reynor not able to go the distance. Just an arduous, exhausting series. And Cure, the master of the slow burn. The grindstone Terran. Reynor just not able to keep up this time around. Cure, a well-deserved victory. I certainly hope you enjoyed as much as I did. Thank you for watching. I hope it made your day just a little bit better. And if you got the means of motivation, be awesome to check out Patreon or YouTube membership. But I hear liking and subscribing is still free, at least for now. Thank you to our Mule Tier patrons for bringing in the extra minerals. Big Jiggy, Devendor, Kate, Mario, Random Guy, and Suit. And otherwise, to everyone, thank you for watching. I hope I made your day a little bit better. Good luck. Have fun. Stay chill.